Welcome to the Prophecy Club, an unusual program today. And I would say it's really talking about the mark of the beast and a new world coming. Maybe that should be the title. So here's what happened. I went in this morning. I arrived at 10:15 to turn in the silver and gold that had been donated to Prophecy Club over these 33 years, dropped in the offering and whatnot. That was mostly all silver coins. There was one gold coin. And you may be saying, wow, Stan, has it reached that point? Yeah, it's reached that point. I never thought this day would arrive. I thought that all those little donations people had dropped into the bucket over the years hopefully would be our rainy day fund. Well, today was the rainy day. What happened was last month our church rent bounced. It cleared again a few days later. And then last night, another donation that we give to a homeless ministry in Kansas and have been donating to them for, I don't know, over 20 years. Anyway, it cleared, but it threw us $750 into the red. So it was desperation time. Time to do something. So I gathered up all of those mostly silver coins and I took it down to a silver coin dealer today. It took him 2 hours to go through and count it all up. Anyway, but there was another guy that walked in, and while the other guy was counting, we got into a conversation. He started asking me, what do you do for a living, and how'd you come to be here, and blah, blah, blah. And after a few questions, and I'm going to try to bring it to you because I think it had some very important and powerful oversight that I seldom get to on the program. So after a few questions, I said, well, let me just back up and tell you my history. I said, so when I got out of high school, I started selling heat and smoke detectors door to door. It turns out I was pretty good at it. 5-time national sales champion, did that for 6 years. Then I went into teaching these public speaking and sales courses and management courses. And once again, I was pretty good at that. Won a lot of awards, did that for 13 years. But in the background, I'm studying Bible prophecy the whole time. And I said, then in 1993, God called me to actually go full-time into the ministry of Bible prophecy. And I said, do you know what Bible prophecy is? He said, no. I said, well, do you want to know the future? He said, no. I said, I understand. That's the way most people think. And I said, the problem is, a day is coming when the sky is going to be falling. The day is going to come that there's going to be a real shaking to this world that we live in. And in that day, people like yourself that have preferred not to hear the negative, don't want to know what's coming, don't want to know what's going on, all of a sudden they're going to be shaken and they're going to be scared and they're going to want some answers. And I said, and that's where guys like myself come in. And I said, for example, do you want to know anything about Iran? Not really. Do you want to know anything about a world government coming? Not really. How about the mark of the beast? Do you know anything about the mark of the beast? No. I said, well, you can just go ahead and live on in your bliss. And then one day when your world falls apart, then you will wish that you had been listening. And I was ready to end the conversation. And you could tell that my words had sort of sunk in. And the guy's over here still counting the silver. He's not paying attention. But it took him 2 hours to go through it. I mean, just various coins, again, 33 years of coins dropped into our ministry and whatnot. Anyway, he says, okay, what were you saying about some kind of mark? I said, okay, the day is going to come when no one will be able to buy or sell, as he's counting out the coins there. That's perfectly good time to talk about it. No one will be able to buy or sell unless they get a mark right here or right here. He said, really? I said, yeah, that's what the Bible says. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, and free and bond, to receive a mark in the right hand or in their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell save he had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. I said, see what we're doing, we're coming to a global government. There'll be one government, one religion, one currency system, and one guy in charge of it all. And his eyes got like really big. He said, really? I never heard any of this stuff. And I said, well, do you want to know the truth? He said, yeah. And I said, because most people, frankly, don't. They prefer to live in their world, and don't confuse me with scary facts. I'm having a good time. Let me just have a good time until the day it just blows up. That's their attitude. I said, do you want to know the truth? Yeah. I said, okay. I said, so there's a day coming. I think that the UFOs will land probably right on the lawn, the White House lawn, pop the hatch, and say, okay, here we are. Here's who we are. And it'll be just that simple. And it'll be curiosity for a lot of people, but it will be a life-shaking change for them. That's only part of the changes coming. I said, and they're going to say something like, well, we got to tell you guys on Earth the truth. We seeded this planet. You're actually now it's a big lie, but that's what they'll say. We seeded this planet. You're actually our creation from eons back. And the problem is they'll have some pretty good proof to prove it to us. And I said, they're going to say things like, oh, we got to tell you about this other thing. Okay, you guys, all these different religions, all that Jesus stuff, that Muhammad stuff, all that's all garbage. So let me explain to you how it really works. We created this planet. We made you. And we had designed for this day to come back. And we have to tell you, Muhammad and Jesus and all of that, that's garbage. This guy over here, he's the real creator. He's the real God. And they're pointing to the Antichrist. And he says, well, what about the Muslims? They'll never put up that. I said, you don't understand. The Muslims are looking for the Mahdi. They say that during the time of great crisis in the earth, that their Mahdi, which is their ruler, is going to return to them, and he will cause the Muslims to conquer the world and take over the whole world. And he will be the leader of the world. I said, but here's the problem. The Hindus have a similar story. The Jews in Israel that don't accept Jesus, they're waiting for their Messiah. Never mind Jesus, their Messiah has already arrived, but they're looking for the Messiah. Did you know that just about every religion on the earth is waiting for some man to arrive that's going to solve all problems? I said, now here's the problem. This guy that they call the Mahdi, the Jews call their Messiah. The Hindus, I forget the name that the Hindus call him, but all of the religions have the same story. Well, we Christians call him the Antichrist. And the problem is, he is going to be the best looking guy that has ever lived on the planet. Women like that are going to accept. He's going to be absolutely handsome, and he's going to be filled with the Spirit of God to give him a mouth speaking great things. And that's God giving him that mouth. He will have the answer for everything. Well, never mind, since the devil is causing all the problems, when he sends his man, the Antichrist, since the devil is causing the problems, he can also make the problems go away. So this guy is going to have the answer for everything. He's going to be the most handsome person ever lived. He's going to have all of the solutions. He will be able to solve all of the problems because, again, the devil's been creating all problems. So he'll start solving them. And everybody on the earth, except a very small group of Christians that believe their Bible, and they know their Bible, that know Bible prophecy, okay, most of them will accept him. They'll say, yeah, this is the guy, man. He's got all the answers. And he not only will have all the answers, he'll also have all of the solutions. So much so that all of the world pledges allegiance to him. All of the militaries give up their military weapons, all the atomic weapons, everything. They hand it all over. Everybody hands it all over to the sky. Because Daniel says, by peace, he will destroy many. Well, how can he destroy people by peace? Because here's what he says. If you want to have peace on earth, you got to get rid of these other religions. You got to get rid of these other sovereign borders, these other flags. Everybody got to be united with me, the Antichrist, as the leader. Everybody got to worship me. And to prove you worship me, you got to take the mark right here or right here. And unless you take that, you won't be able to buy or sell. Now, again, they're counting out the silver coins. And I said, like, for example, all these coins, it's all going bye-bye. Now, yes, they're always going to be there. And yes, you can still barter with them. But the international trading way will be, and I pulled out my cell phone. Remember the 11-year-old boy and what he said? I said, so your cell phone, well, it won't be a cell phone. It'll be about the size of a cell phone. And it will be, I think, now, I don't know for certain how this works, but my guess is that this phone, only it's not a phone, but this device will pass by all passwords on all Wi-Fi. It is always connected to the Wi-Fi unless you're out where there's not a Wi-Fi. Then it connects up to the Starlink satellites that Elon Musk has put up. They're low Earth orbiting satellites. They don't communicate with each other using radar or like we do. Instead, it's lasers up and also down. And all of those satellites are all connected to a quantum computer. Do you know what a quantum computer? No, I don't know what. I said, well, if you take the fastest computer that humans have ever made, that's likened to you turning on your garden hose at full blast. Compare the amount of water coming out of your garden hose to the amount of water going over Niagara Falls. That's how much faster the quantum computer is. It's not man-made. It's the aliens that have given it to us to help us, you see. What is that all for? I said, well, why are they building all of these data centers? Is that so that we can search and have all of our problems solved on Earth? No. All of those data centers is so that they can track and monitor every person, not just their purchases, but everything that every person on the planet does. They will not only have a cell phone, but they'll also have this other device about the size of a cell phone for buying and selling. It's all going to be digital. So what we're talking about is one world government, one world religion. Everybody's got to be on the same page. One world digital currency system. And everybody got to worship this guy, this most handsome, most brilliant guy that's solving all of Earth's problems. Everybody going to love him. He's not going to be known as the devil. He's going to be known as the savior of everything. And then, of course, he's going to start talking bad about all of the other religions, especially Christianity. And sadly, probably half of the Christians will start falling away. And so if a person is not already a Christian, and this guy was not already a Christian, he didn't know anything. He was a blank sheet of paper. But I said, if they're not already a Christian, if they haven't already seen that Jesus is Lord and that he is the real Christ, if they haven't already seen that, then they're going to say, oh, this is a great idea. It's a great idea. Look, the mark of the beast is a great idea. So that everyone is tracked, so no one can steal money. It's a great idea. Track all of the transactions, track all of the people. So if someone steals or if someone hurts someone, it's all recorded. It's all monitored. There's a great idea to it. But the problem is behind it is the devil's son. That's what the Antichrist is. I said, so try to imagine you cannot buy or sell unless you have the mark here and the mark here. And also, you have to have the device like a cell phone for you to buy and sell anything. You want to sell your lawnmower to your neighbor, you got to go through this. That is, unless you're going to transfer using gold or silver. And that's still going to be done some But if you want to buy something on the internet or buy something in another nation, most of that's going to be all digital. So we're coming to a digital world. And he looked at me like, I don't know any of this. I said, well, I said, you need to start listening to our program. And I said, you have a cell phone? Yes. I said, bring me a cell phone. And it was an Android, so I was kind of lost in an Android. I said, okay, go to, I think it was Google Play. Type in Prophecy Club, download our app. Now here's the way it works, and I'll show you what it looks like here. It looks like this right here. And then you click on these, and it downloads the programs. So you can see today's programs there. You click on one of those, you choose whether you want to just have just audio or audio and video. You watch the program, and should you get a phone call, it pauses, and then after the phone call, it'll start up for you again. That way you can start catching up with what is going on. Now, I say all of that to say, oh, I just remembered, I thought, yeah, I had a lot more. Okay, what else was it? I said, like, for example, do you want to know what's going on with Iran? And at first he said, no. So then after this, I came back, I said, do you want to know what's going on with Iran? Yes. I said, well, we're probably talking about a great peace comes to the Middle East. Right now, the prophecies do not say there's going to be a big war yet. A great peace comes to the Middle East. And we'd like to think that that's good, and it's probably going to be the third beast. Now, I know you don't understand that, but it's in Daniel. There's 4 beasts, and when you get to the 4th one, that's the world government. Well, right now, we aren't certain that the third beast has even been formed. Probably has. This is definitely the third, or probably the third beast forming the Abraham Accords. And I said, and probably what we're talking about is Iran will probably, whether it's they got to get some more bombs landed on them first, or whether they just go ahead and decide they're going to cooperate with Trump, but one way or another, Trump's going to get what he wants. And I said, and at the end of that, we're talking about a great peace, briefly, a brief peace, and then after that, we're talking about a big war. Someplace in there, we're talking about world government comes in, the Antichrist appears. I said, here's the problem. If you don't have Jesus in your heart now, if you don't understand these things now, then if half of the Christians, excuse me, if half of the Christians get deceived by the Antichrist and you're not even a Christian, what chance do you have? So if you don't want to be tossed into the lake burning with fire and brimstone, with the beast, the false prophet, and 1,000 years later, Lucifer tossed in with you, in total torment, where you're in total pain for all eternity, with no hope of escape. You can't say, I'm sorry, hey, let's do this again. That is the judgment for all eternity. If you don't want to be tossed there, then now's the time to start finding out about Jesus and the Bible. I said, that's what I do. Then I told him, I said, look, we used to hold meetings. There was a time when we were holding 40 meetings in a month all across America. I wasn't running all of the meetings, obviously. We had people running the meetings. 40 meetings a month. About 5,000 people a month were attending our meetings. And my wife and I have also conducted 73 3-day crusades. And that's where this silver came in from over 33 years of ministry, just being tossed into offering plates here and there. And this is my backup, my emergency money that I'm now, because we're in an emergency. So here we are. And I said, we're talking about world government, world religion, a world currency system. And the only way you're going to be able to spot this is if now you start learning, you start hearing, you start understanding what is going on. If not, you'll be like all of the other people around you. Yeah, he sounds like a good leader. Let's go with him. He sounds good. He looks good. He's solving problems. I mean, who could be against him? But the problem is, it's the devil's man. And I said, so I'd recommend you start boning up on this and start learning it. And that's when he downloaded the app. And but by now we're about done, all counted out. I went back into the central area there and waited for them to write the check, which now is deposited. And I told my wife, I said, hopefully that will help us to survive during the slow winter or slow summer months, because during summer it's always slow, but I've never seen it this slow. And so I guess this would be a good time for me to say, if God has blessed you and you can help your prophecy club, now is a really, really good time. The day is going to come when, yeah, we're drilling wells in Israel. But until those days arrive, see, we've lost all of our sponsors. Well, EMP Shield, they're still with us, but the problem is most of you folks that want an EMP Shield has already got an EMP Shield. They did a big special, and I think we only had like 2 orders come in. Well, that's nothing. It's a couple $100, it's not much. Not for paying payroll for, what, I don't know, 6 or 7 people, Anyway, summer is also, we've lost our sponsors, and I won't talk about them, but not everything went, as they say, according to Hoyle. Not everything was done exactly right. They didn't treat your prophecy club right. That's all I should say. So that comes back to, there's not a question whether I'm going to close Prophecy Club. That's not. We've been here since '93, and we're going to be here in 2040 if I'm still having my heartbeat. Okay. But it does mean that we could get ourselves into one big financial bind. So if God has blessed you and you could help us, we certainly need it now. This is, I've never seen it this tough. Not only is it tough because, like, I emailed Dana Coverstone. I said, what's going on? I said, we used to get a dream or something from you pretty much every month, sometimes 2 a month. He says, I think that God has stopped talking because the warnings have ended, and now the things the warnings were warning of are about to arrive. And I said, I asked Brian Searle, the You Be Ready guy, same thing. He said the same answer. And I said, that's what I was thinking before I asked you. So right now it appears that everything is good. It appears that, we don't need prophecy. We don't need to hear that negative stuff. Actually, we're in the worst days because God has stopped talking. He stopped warning. It's kind of like in negotiations. When they stop talking, that's when the bombs start flying. Out on the school ground, when people stop talking, that's when the fists start flying. Right now, Trump is going to make America great again. Matter of fact, I told this guy, I said, I think that had Trump not been elected, America would already be in a world of hurt. The sky falling, the shaking that I talked about would already hit. I think Trump has given us more time. And that's when I also said, do you think the Russians will ever attack America? Oh, no. I said, yeah. Matter of fact, they destroy America in one day. So he had a rude awakening. And here's the problem. There are so many websites out there, YouTube channels, other channels out there, and there's some really good speakers, and they have some really good information, and it's really, really interesting. But no one has what Prophecy Club has. I keep asking people, is there another ministry like Prophecy Club? Everybody says the same thing every time. I always get the same answer. No, there is nothing like Prophecy Club out there. Why? I can't tell you why pastors don't hear Dimitri Duduman's message. I don't understand that. I can't tell you why pastors, well, maybe I can too. When Leslie and I first started the Spirit of Prophecy Church, we purposed in our heart to tell the people the truth. Whether they like it or whether they didn't, we're going to tell them the truth. How'd it work out for you, Stan? Not good. We have 20 people on a Sunday morning, 30 people maybe. Not good. Matter of fact, the church hasn't made rent in 4 years. Prophecy Club has to cover it for the church every month. And the Prophecy Club couldn't cover it for the church last month. As a matter of fact, I got an email a few minutes ago. Said church rent's due today. So, my point is, I think that trouble is just around the corner. And I hate to say this, but during a time of trouble is when the prophecy ministries do well. When Biden was in, we did much better than when Trump was in. Because now Trump is going to fix everything. Not. Matter of fact, I told Leslie, I said, well, to me it seems like Trump is fixing everything. I said, that's what our people think. They think Trump is just fixing everything. She says, well, that's not what I hear. I hear a lot of people are really hurting financially. So I don't know. But I can tell you that if God has blessed you, and if you can help us through these summer months, it would be much appreciated. To tell you the truth, it was hard keeping my chin up. Carrying those silver coins, mostly silver, one gold one, that I collected 33 years. 33 years of ministry. You folks dropped them into various offering plates. And it was tough. I told Leslie, I said, I was hoping this day would never come. I said, it's a bit sad, it's a little disheartening, it's kind of hard, it's difficult. Difficult to carry in 33 years of collecting silver coins because a ministry 33 years old can't pay